America and the can-do spirit of innovation and competitiveness. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Does anyone seek recognition? Chair recognizes Mr. Carter for 5 minutes on the CARS Act.
Madam Chair, I move the strike last word in support of this bill.
Gentleman's recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, I'm not opposed to electric vehicles. The single largest economic development project in the history of the state of Georgia is underway right now in my district that I have the honor and privilege of representing. It's by Hyundai Motor Company. They're building electric vehicles. We're excited to have them. A $5.5 billion investment. It's going to employ over 8,100 people and probably that many more people in ancillary businesses. We're excited about it. They're incredible machines. Lots of cool features and advantages. However, I am opposed to the idea that we should be more or less forcing Americans into these vehicles only. What's more, I'm also against the notion that electric vehicles will somehow save our emission problems. The truth is that we don't know the true picture of carbon dioxide emissions associated with EVs. All the claims are either estimates or guesses. The processes behind mining and processing the materials required to produce these vehicles are very energy intensive and for certainly not emission-free at the moment. A recent Manhattan Institute report examined just this and emphasized that we have no real idea of these emissions, especially if we expand EV production dramatically. In that report, they point out that the global mining industry today already accounts for about 40% of all industrial energy use before a significant expansion. That will have to happen as high-quality deposits become rarer to find. By the way, those processes are largely not happening here in the U.S., where I'm confident we could do a decent job, despite my colleagues' pleas to actually do that. Not only do you have to factor in these emissions that, again, we don't have a full picture of, but you also have to factor in the emissions involved in transporting materials all across the globe. I fear that accounting for these either eliminates those benefits or may even add more emissions. What we are hearing from the other side is that as long as it isn't here, it doesn't count. We're simply going to shift this burden to other countries. They can deal with air quality issues, which are already worse than the U.S. In fact, the mining and processing powered by coal in China is putting particulates in the air that travel all the way to the U.S. Shutting that down in the U.S. will not end this pollution and will hurt us. Is that what they call environmental justice? The research firm ICF found that if crude oil from the Gulf of Mexico were to displace crude oil production outside of the U.S. and Canada, global emissions could drop by 50%. That seems like a reasonable path to pursue, but the administration is decidedly not doing that. Further, the EPA has said that U.S. air quality and emissions continue to improve as we drive more miles, consume more energy, and grow our economy. My colleagues will say that this will improve public health because of their narrow idea that the only health issues associated with this is air quality. That is misguided. As we discussed in the subcommittee markup, health care access is a significant factor. Portions of my district are incredibly rural and simply not practical for EVs. My constituents deserve access to affordable vehicles that they can depend on. I understand that my colleagues across the aisle are big fans of EVs, as am I. I get it. They're very high-tech, and they can be incredibly convenient in the right circumstances, but not for everyone, and especially if you make less than six figures. And a lot of people in my district do make less than six figures. If people want an EV, they can make that choice. In fact, they already have a number of incentives pushing them that way as it is today. There are federal tax credits to incentivize purchasing an EV, and many states have other incentives on top of that, and they're working. Otherwise, I don't think you'd see what's happening in Georgia. My home state of Georgia is positioning itself to be the electric mobility capital of the U.S. Yet Georgia has not and will not propose tailpipe rules like California or similar policies to more or less mandate EVs. We don't need any more market distorting policies that cost taxpayers money and opportunity. I urge all my colleagues to support these bills that allow for consumer choice. Consumer choice. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Does anyone seek to be recognized on the bill? You're done? Okay. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mr. Duncan for 5 minutes to speak on the underlying bill.
South Carolina. Thank you, Madam Chair.